teaching.
Well, that's good, and I hope some of the previous footage I thought was really well done. So, and by the way, Tanner, you did a nice job, really a nice job. I think the video's good. So, if I hope we're not. Are we starting the whole thing over, or what are we doing?
Well,
doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, let's just do it all over. And I got the same questions we did last time.
Okay.
We'll just kind of
see how it goes.
Pick and choose, and of course you
Okay.
can have your lasting comments.
Yeah.
And some of your sort of like cheating maybe, but some of your comments you said before you now know, and maybe you think, well, maybe I should have added to that. Or maybe
Right.
I should have said
Right.
Tanner, just let us know.
I'm rolling.
Whenever
you want to roll.
Okay, Dr. Andrews, let's go all the way back to the top. Oh, train's coming in.
Yeah. The good news is they only chime on the hour, so.
Okay. I love clocks. I love hearing clocks too.
They're all for sale. Just pick one you like, and I'll price them.
Good deal.
I'll price them. Well, I'm not going to give you a good deal. I'll price them for you.
Good price. All right. Start off with tell us your name, where you grew up, and how you got into higher education.
Yeah, my name is Wayne Andrews. I grew up in Spencer, Massachusetts, a little town central New England. And, in a nice blue-collar family that was very interested in education and made it known to their children, my parents had 4 children, that the way to a better future and a better life was through education. So they impressed upon us all through school that we ought to go to college. They didn't particularly care what we studied, it was that we went to college. Neither of my parents had the opportunity to go to college. My dad wasn't interested, my mother was very interested, valedictorian of her high school class, a very, very smart woman. But when she graduated in 1939, there weren't opportunities for women on scholarship, and her family couldn't afford to send her. Later, she went as an adult to a secretarial school and did very well. So she impressed upon us college was important. I went on to listen to clocks. I forgot. See, they're not all chiming at the same time.
It's all right.
Yeah.
You're a neurologist.
That's it.
The term? Is it hourology?
I guess, it's H-O-R-O-L-O-G-Y, orology. So when I graduated from high school, my mother was really certain I should go on to college, but I wasn't ready for college at that point. And so I went into the Army for 4 years. And, after that experience, a year and a half in Vietnam, when I came home, I realized college was pretty darn important. I went back to my high school, went back to my high school career counselor and said, Mr. Gaudet, I think I want to go to college, but I don't know anything about it. So he helped me get into a school much like Morehead State University, Fitchburg State College. And it was a regional comprehensive college, primarily for teacher education. And that's where I started. I thought I was going to be a teacher of industrial arts because I was really good with my hands always, and I had intellectual curiosity. And so that's where I started. I was going to be an industrial arts teacher. What was interesting in my early experience there in college, I did very well, but I had some mentor teachers that helped get me started because I wasn't well prepared. I had a math teacher, Betty Haskins, that I'll never forget because she made sure that I was successful. Struggled the first few weeks, and she said to me, Andrews, you need to bring your lunch to my office. I eat lunch every day at 11:30. You come and we'll work math problems. And that's how she got me started. And after that, math became easy. So, I had a good education there at Fitchburg State College. And then I was blessed. I had my advisor had just finished his doctoral work at West Virginia University in the program for the study of technology, kind of a philosophically oriented program about the impacts of technology on society. And he took a liking to me and my work and said, when you finish here, you need to go to graduate school. I had never even considered graduate school. I was going to become a teacher. And so that's what happened next. There was a segue. I received a fellowship at West Virginia University. I was there for 3 years, did my master's and my doctorate in a combined program, in the program for study of technology. And when I finished there, it was on to higher education. And, things just kept falling in place. And I spent my first 10 years at Illinois State University on the faculty there and had a wonderful experience. The Illinoisans are wonderful people. But we lived on a little house on the prairie, really. It was, the winters were severe, the summers were hot, and it was far from home. And then in 1987, we had an opportunity to come back toward the east at East Tennessee State University. as chair of the engineering technology program there. And so we migrated south and east, and we were absolutely blessed to spend 17 years in Johnson City, Tennessee, at East Tennessee State. It prepared me well for this position. I was fortunate to work for two presidents who were wonderful mentors, Dr. Roy Nix and Dr. Paul Stanton. Both of them gave me tremendous opportunities. I went on a national fellowship with the American Council on Education in 92, 93, came back, served as executive assistant to the president, and then I served in an interim vice presidency in student affairs and went on to become the permanent president in student affairs, and then the president asked me to become the vice president for administration, and that was the position I held before I came here. So I had a lot of experience both on the faculty side. I was tenured at both Illinois State and East Tennessee State, and worked closely with faculty for really my first 20 years on the job, I suppose, and then moved into administration and have been the last 20 years in administration. So it's been an interesting journey, but one that's been very rewarding.
So when you came here, what was the environment like at Morehead State when your administration began? Was it a hard transition?
Well, it was interesting because the role I played at East Tennessee State, I was the Vice President for Administration and Chief Operating Officer. So I really was the #1 person there working with President Stanton. And so I had a lot of experience. So when I came here, the first thing I did was, kind of gather the facts. I did my own SWOT analysis. What are we strong at? Where are our weaknesses? So I walked the entire campus. I went in every building on this campus. I held meetings with faculty at the program level in every program. And it took me about 6 months to do all this. And, here's what I observed and here's what I found. First of all, in terms of the physical environment, the campus needed a lot of work. There was a huge amount of deferred maintenance. We just had not paid careful attention to the place. And this is a beautiful campus. But we had not kept it up as we needed to, so it was very obvious to me. So one of the first things I did while I was meeting with academic people, learning about their interest, I got our facilities people together and others, and I said, look, we can have old buildings, but they've got to be cleaned, and they have to be well maintained, and the campus has to be picked up and planted and mowed. So we began a very aggressive campaign to make this place as good looking as it could be, and I think we've achieved that. For example, we took down a lot of buildings that served no useful purpose. They weren't being used, they were eyesores, and they just didn't make our place look like a quality place. So we can come back to that. So that was part one. Part two then, I had meetings with program faculty in every program on campus, and here's what I heard, and I still have the notes. What I heard was we're pretty staid, we're in a groove, we've been in the groove a long time. We need to be thinking more about modern programs and moving the bureaucracy to get things done. And so I embarked on a program there on the academic side to begin to try to transform the academics on campus. The Board of Regents provided the direction. The first thing we did early on was we took the curriculum, which was at 128 hours, and we moved it back to 120 hours as a degree requirement. Well, that required a lot of work because we had to reform general education, which had more than 40 hours required. I don't remember the exact number now. We took it back to about 36 hours. And so the faculty took that on, and that was their responsibility to reframe general education. Well, here it is 10 years later now, and they're getting ready. I think the provost is getting ready to work with the faculty to look at that again, because the curriculum shouldn't be stagnant. But that was a big endeavor. There were concerns about communication on campus and access and transparency. So what I began to do is we started to publish minutes of all of our meetings. We have always had, in my time here, 2 convocations a year, one fall, one spring or winter. And I have held open forums every semester, at least once, sometimes twice a semester, just to say to folks, here's what's going on from our point of view, what are your questions, and we answer those. We've used a lot more email, things of that nature. So I have tried to respond to the things people said. The technology on campus was stagnant. We have completely reformed technology here. And then in addition to that, we talked to students, and students said right from the start, we need better residence halls that are modern and up to date. We need better food service, we need better parking, and we need better technology infrastructure. And if you look at where we are today, I think you can see we have really made progress in all those areas.
When you look back at the history, and of course you've seen the film, from the post-Adrian Doran years at Morehead State, it was really not until your administration that Morehead had new construction of buildings and programs. Was this something you had to work very hard to accomplish?
Right. So one of the things, as I said earlier, that was so obvious to me is we hadn't been good stewards of our property. And so the very first planning endeavor that we did within the first year of my being here was we brought the campus community together and we revised the university strategic plan. And the strategic plan is known as, by the acronym ASPIRE. Each of those letters represents an area within the plan. A is for academics, S is for student support and the like. So we took a comprehensive view of things. I think the thing I'm most proud of in my entire time here is that we have lived by the notion, plan the work, and then work the plan. You know, you can ask people to help you. You can go to the legislature and tell them you need money. But the first thing they want to be convinced of is that you've studied something carefully and you've documented the need and you can describe the impact. And I think we've done that very, very well. So we embarked in that first strategic planning effort. Part of that had to do with our residence halls. All of them had been built in the 50s and 60s. The most recent hall was completed, I think it was Cartmel in 1969, and they needed a lot of attention. We brought in an outside firm, a national consulting firm. They surveyed over 1,000 students, prospective students, parents of students. We asked questions about what kind of living conditions are you looking for and all that, documented it, and then we embarked on a process to renovate the residence halls. We have finished renovating 6 residence halls. We started with Nunn Hall, we went to Alumni Tower, we've done the Manon Complex, and then Cartmel is the next hall to be renovated and probably the last, although Cooper could be, just depends. And then we're in the process, as you know right now, building 550 new beds on campus and a residence hall that is truly a beautiful residence hall. All that started back in 2005 with a good planning process. So it's been a challenge to go after the money, but the way you do that is you have a solid plan. And in the case of the residence halls, the students are paying the debt service on that. That is not state money. All we needed from the state was authorization to borrow the money. We borrowed the money through agency bonds. The bonded indebtedness is promised payment by the revenue from students that live in residence halls through their tuition, through their rental payments. So it wasn't a hard sell with students. Well, we went to them and said, you know, is this something you'd support? And students that lived in residence halls said, yeah, this sounds like a really good plan. So we started with that. In addition, I believe it's true that the first academic building in this administration was the first academic building built since Dr. Doran was on campus, and that was space science. Representative Rocky Adkins, who is, we're in his district, the 99th House District, and he's a Morehead graduate, proud of his association with us, and he told me early on, look, you figure out what you need, and let me help you get it, because Morehead is so important to our region. So we started with space science. It was a germ of an idea by a faculty member, Ben Malfris. The program was started, but it was fledgling. We needed space. And that was our first lick, and that was a really big deal. Space science that's a beautiful facility, and it sets us apart from everybody else in the country. There are only 5 programs like ours in the United States of America. This is a very high-quality, distinguished program. And then the other thing that happened that first spring with respect to buildings, students came to me and they said, hey, at East Tennessee State, where you came from, you just finished building a recreation center for students. We want one of those. And I said, well, I'd love to build one for you, but you'll have to pay for it because the state doesn't pay for that. The students did the work. They went out and visited programs around the country. They identified the kind of facility they wanted. They come back to the administration. They said, this is what we'd like. We hired an architect. The students are paying for it through a fee. Every semester they're paying $100 per student per semester. And I think has really, that started the transformation on this campus in terms of student life. More people are staying on campus than ever before. Better residence halls, better food, better recreation facilities. And then the second big academic endeavor was the Center for Health Education and Research. $30 million state-funded facility that houses nursing, imaging sciences, the UK Rural Physicians Program. So it's a partnership. It's our building. It's a state building. St. Clair has a wonderful family clinic in the building, but it was truly a partnership between those two entities, UK, St. Clair, and us, to do something really special for the people in this region, and Rocky Atkins helped get that done.
What's the traditional music?
Yeah, well, I have a soft place in my heart for music, and I grew up in a family. Interesting, it wasn't a musical family, really, but my sister is a professional musician. She's a violinist, trained at the New England Conservatory of Music, so there was always music in our home. I didn't really become interested in traditional music till I was at East Tennessee State, and it was because my daughter Jill, who is a professional musician, she's a singer-songwriter, she lives in Nashville, and doing very well, has a successful career. She started bringing these influences into the house, playing the banjo, playing the guitar. She formed a group with some others, the Everybody Fields was the name of the group, that achieved really strong notoriety within the region. They were doing really well until they split up like bands do, and now she's on her own for the last 10 years, I guess. But anyway, so that was of interest. And where I was previously, we had a program there in bluegrass and old-time music, a really good program. Jack Tottle was the director, Raymond McLean was the assistant director, and Raymond became the director when Jack retired. And it was attracting huge talent from the industry as well as student talent. And I had affiliation with them. I helped them with facilities. That was part of my job. And I came to know and love what they did. That was sort of my introduction to it. Well, when I came here, I discovered fondly that we had a program. We had an associate's degree program in traditional music. It was called Bluegrass, I think is the way it was described. Don Rigsby was the director, and Don is a wonderful bluegrass performer. He's had a great career. Don directed that center for about 10 years and decided to go back into the industry. And it was at that point, I guess I had been here then maybe 3 years or so, and we had the opportunity to go to the next level. Don laid a good foundation. How do we take it to the next level? Well, the next level, first and foremost, was hire the right person to direct it. We did a search, talked to Raymond McLean. Raymond, of course, is a Kentucky native son. He was born in Heinemann and grew up in Berea. Most of it went to Berea College. Is performed with the McLean family band for years, and they achieve international notoriety. A very, very high quality musical family. Raymond is a consummate teacher, and he has assembled a group of teachers there that are terrific. And so what I did to help with that, I wrote a proposal with Jim Shaw in development. We went to the Lucille Cottle Little Foundation, and we asked for $1 million. And they gave us $1 million. And we got it matched with state money through the Bricks for Brains program. Now we had $2 million. We bought the Rowan County Library downtown on First Street because they were building a new building. They were anxious to sell. We bought that. With the money we had, we gutted it, remodeled it, and had created a facility for them. It is a really nice facility. Beautiful classrooms for teaching, a recording studio, acoustically appropriate for that kind of music, and it's a home. And I've been delighted to watch the growth of the program because every year more and more students are attracted to it. And it's really not just about the music. That's a big part of it. It's about our history, the history of the region, the culture and traditions of our people. It's what Michael Jonathan calls it's front porch music. It's music from the church choir. It's music from the parking lots at the Legion Hall. It's the kind of stuff people in rural communities created to tell stories, to keep traditions alive. That's the roots part of it. In addition, Jesse Wells there is the conservator and has thousands of recordings of traditional musicians that he's gathered, some that have been donated, photographs. It's a rich repository of music that helps us keep this alive and teach students about it. So it's a tremendous, unique feature to what Morehead State University does.
After you were hired as president here at Morehead, did you find yourself researching the local histories of the campus and the events, history of the county?
Yeah, what was interesting about that, when I accepted the job, Keith Capus, who was the vice president for university relations at the time, and a character unto himself, I always refer to Keith as larger than life. You know, he's an interesting guy, very, very smart man, and very steeped in the history of this place. He gave me a copy of Don Flatt's book, The History of Morehead State University, A Light Unto the Mountains. So it was a history from the beginning in 1887 through 1997. And I read it with interest, and I was very surprised to find that this has been a reckless and lawless place back in the 1870s. In fact, the reason that Frank Button came here with his mother Phoebe was to bring, as he said, kind of a light to the mountains. We were uneducated and ignorant in the way we were behaving, and there was a war going on here, larger than the Hatfield and McCoy War in Pike County. And here in Rowan County, more people died. The governor of the state said we might just close Rowan County down and give the land back to the adjacent counties from which it came. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But Brother Button and his mother started a school here, right where ADUC, the Adrian Doran University Center, is located today. A one-room school, and on the first day in the fall of 1887, one young woman showed up, and that afternoon I think a second young woman showed up, and you know, the rest is history. Started out as private, closed in 1922, became public in 1923, and then the university progressed through the many permutations. But the history is important because today, in the date and time we live, we're still providing a light into the mountains of eastern Kentucky. That's been our history and tradition, and we're never going to back off from that. I remind our staff of that all the time. First and foremost, that's our priority. 60% of our students come from 22 counties in eastern Kentucky. Now, there's some challenges associated with that today, but it's really important to remember how we started.
What do you feel has been your greatest accomplishments as Morehead State president?
I think that what I've done is created a sense of vision for what we could be. Morehead has always aspired to do great things for its people. And what I've tried to do is capture people's imagination with the possibilities. So as part of our strategic plan, we talked about a vision to become the best regional public university in the South. And you know, that's met with a lot of cynicism through the years. People would say, you know, it's not possible. We don't have enough money. We're Morehead, you know, and all that sort of talk. My answer to that is, I can give you examples today where Morehead State University is the best among those regional comprehensive universities in the southern states of the United States. Space science would be an example. Biomedical science is the program where we prepare students to go to professional schools, whether it's medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, veterinary science, the like, is a top program. Our acceptance rates are terrific. Our nursing program, imaging sciences program, these are really top programs, to name a few. Equine science would be another example. So we already have, in my view, a half a dozen programs, maybe more, that are among the very, very best in that category. Why not all of them? That's my vision. Why not all of them?
During your investiture, your guest speaker, you referred to Morehead State as the creator of the middle class in eastern Kentucky. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was really taken back by that statement. It's a really powerful idea, isn't it, when you think about it? She said, and I remember it very clearly, she stood at the podium and she was here to represent Governor Fletcher, and she said Morehead State University is responsible for creating the middle class in eastern Kentucky. Wow, that's powerful. What did she mean by that? Well, even today, 80% of the teachers in the public schools in eastern Kentucky have some affiliation with Morehead State. They graduated from here, they have a rank 1, they have a master's degree, but they're closely affiliated with us. Our superintendents, many of them, our principals, are affiliated with us. And so it is true, the connection between Morehead State and the school systems is very strong. In addition to that, the professionals in our communities, the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the business leaders, many of them are graduates of Morehead State University. So Morehead continued that tradition that Jenny Fox, who was the Secretary of Education in the Fletcher administration, who made that statement, many of our universities responsible for helping to create the people that made the middle class possible in an area that has been historically underserved and poor.
What type of town would Morehead be today if the university was not?
Well, very interesting. 6 or 7 years ago, I was having lunch with a man that grew up here, and he was actually from Carter County, a really nice guy who'd had a very successful career on the West Coast, an innovative entrepreneur. And over lunch, he said to me, Wayne, he said, you know, if Morehead State University wasn't in Morehead, Morehead would just be another Olive Hill. And he was from that part of our community. He was from Carter County. And he didn't mean it in a pejorative way. He simply meant the university has created something in Morehead that's really special. In fact, as you know, the history of Morehead with the decision to locate it here was pretty controversial. There were 3 or 4 other communities that really wanted this university, and Morehead won out. And it has transformed lives for people here in Rowan County and the surrounding community.